super excited to be running a drum spotlight. My name is Brett Johnson. I'm joined by two of my favorite consultants who I've had the pleasure of working with throughout a very tumultuous and tough time during the pandemic and during quarantine, but both have exceeded all expectations from the drum side. And I'm looking forward and proud to introduce two of our consultants. Munish, feel free to start us off.
Hi, my name is Munish. I have been working at Drum for about 6 months now as a consultant. I've been working as a data engineer. And a little bit about myself, I like to do photography on the side. I do wedding and concert photography, as well as I like motorcycles and cars and doing outdoor stuff. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. How about yourself, Claryce?
Sure. Hi, my name is Claryce, and I've been working with Brett for close to 2 months now, but officially an employee at Drum for about a little bit over a month. And I'm a software engineer. One fun fact about me, I love to travel, even though I haven't been able to do that a lot lately. So I've been like, well, it's a fact, not sure if it's fun, but I've been like to 8 different schools, but in 4 different countries. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
I love it. I did not know that. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to traveling post-pandemic too, for sure. Well, let's start us off here. Munish, I know we've been working for about 6 months together. I guess, how was your experience being onboarded remotely? I mean, it's definitely more challenging not getting to know the team on site, but how have things been so far? And I guess describe to us what it was like first kind of joining Drum as a remote employee.
Right. So, it's not, a typical onboarding. You kind of have to do a lot of self-guided learning, as well as, kind of some, just fact finding on your own. And in that regard, it's actually really beneficial because it kind of forces you to seek out the right resources. But on the other side, people have been extremely helpful. People have been extremely warm and welcoming, and they've been kind of helping me along the way, introducing me to people at the company where I'm placed, as well as just kind of introducing me to all the various systems. So it's been a very not straightforward or standard by any means onboarding, but it has been very easy and pretty fun so far. So yeah.
Awesome. And Claryce, for you, I mean, you started in 2021, so turn of the new year, still at the height of the pandemic. How about yourself? I know this is definitely a new opportunity from a different industry, but kind of take me through how it was for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I will echo the sentiment that Manish expressed around how welcoming and warm everything was, and also how clear, because in such situation where there is no in-person contact, let's say I was expecting it to be a little bit more challenging, but everybody is so kind and so helpful, and also the expectations are clear and the direction and what to do. And also I tend to ask a lot of questions, and having those answered also have been wonderful. So it's clear what to expect. And if something doesn't go as expected, there is always an open line of communication to get things sorted out. So that was very helpful and get me to a place where I can start, even though I'm still learning a lot, about the systems, but I feel like with clear expectations and where we are going, I can start contributing at the same time.
That's great. Yeah. Even to piggyback off that for you, Claryce, you just mentioned that you're still learning. You obviously came from a different technology background with a few different languages you were learning. I guess, what is it like to be hired for an opportunity that is focused on growth, not necessarily what you've done in the past? So what I mean by that is you have some transferable skills, but you're looking to grow within the company. So describe to me how that experience has been for you so far in the first couple of months.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited that I actually did that. And as we all in the tech world know, it's a world that is changing a lot, and getting an opportunity that is not the same thing I've been doing for the past 6.5 years helped me exercise that muscle of learning, of transferring knowledge, of using my ability to learn in a different way. And I think that's great. And the other side of that is the fact that I'm learning things that I'm very interested in on a personal level. So we are using a lot of the newer technology out there. So instead of needing a team, let's say, to set up a different layer and build something in-house that we can find already readily available, we are using those. And it makes it easier to work at work, but also it makes it easier for me to dig into my personal interest, because I'm learning things that I need it for work, but if I want to make a game to play with my friends also, it's very useful, it's very relevant. So so I really like that aspect of it, and the continued learning part of it also keep me motivated and interested in a way, because it's not like, oh, I know how to do this, I've done like 10 dozens of it before. It's just like, oh, let's find out how to do this and the best way to do it and how it's been done lately, and tweak and turn. So I like it.
I know, it's great to hear. And I mean, technology is always evolving. So even to ask you, Munish, right? I know you came from a healthcare background, and now you're in a high growth insurtech startup in a competitive market in Boston. How has that experience been from going from a whole different type of background into a really competitive market like Boston? And I guess, where do you see yourself, continuing to learn? Take us through your entire experience from going to this new company to where you see yourself evolving to as well.
Right. Yeah. So absolutely, as you said, and as Claryce kind of echoed, it's a constantly evolving, shifting technology landscape. The industry shift for me wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be. The basis of the technology is very similar, and I think that's why I was a good fit for this role. And for me personally, I think I do well in environments where I'm constantly being challenged and constantly being, having new things thrown at me from many different directions. So with this particular company, I've had a lot of that, and that's kind of what keeps me sharp, what keeps me, motivated, as well as, helps me facilitate growth and learning. And to answer your question, I believe, that's kind of the reason why I think, in the next few years, I'm going to be able to take up that mantle of technology leadership and technology ownership and grow within this role, because, it requires you to kind of have a keen eye on the industry as well as the technology that's being used, and be able to kind of facilitate that. And what I'll say is that in a smaller group, it's a lot easier to be that facilitator, whereas in kind of a larger company and in certain industries, it can be a little bit tougher to push that technology, whether that's friction from management, or friction from just the cost of some of these newer technologies, switching to some sort of cloud-based platform where the costs aren't necessarily fixed, can be kind of a hindrance to adopting some of these technologies, and sometimes it takes a company or an industry that is willing to be arbiter of that change. So I do think that for me, the shift was really easily facilitated by the fact that the company itself is open to change and open to new ideas, which is really helpful.
That's great. And again, the feedback for you, Munish, has been great. Just really beaming endorsement from senior leadership, and we're all assuming and looking forward to your next role within the company to be in actual leadership capacity. So, you've been a really good example of someone who has, again, taken on a risk. I mean, the risk has obviously paid off from changing industries, but what advice would you give, Munish, to an IT professional who's in a similar scenario to you before, that was looking to change industries? What would you tell them to hopefully settle their nerves to make sure that they know it's a good opportunity moving forward?
Right. I mean, there's two components to any sort of development or engineering role, and it tends to be, the technical abilities, which is what gets highlighted in resumes and job descriptions, and is what kind of gets you through the door. But then there's also the ability to understand kind of the business logic, and that's actually critical, and it's something that not many people can easily interpret right away. And I know for a fact that, sometimes I have difficulty with that, but it's the ability and the willingness to learn that side of things that can kind of really separate you. So to somebody who's looking to shift industries, or even just like totally from one side of development to another, especially in the data world, I recommend you just kind of have an open mind in terms of understanding and really putting thought into what sort of business value you can drive for any particular company. And that's kind of where you'll really learn to shine. When you can kind of take those technical requirements and turn them into actual business deliverables, then you can really drive value for whatever company you're at. So yeah, that for me is advice.
That's great to hear, man. And I know that even your progression from where you were post-college to where you're at now has been a great story from start to finish, right? In terms of taking on different technologies and getting into a really highly visible data engineering role. So that's really well said. Thanks a lot, Munish. Claryce, for you specifically, I know when we first spoke, and it seems like ages ago, but it was only about a month and a half to 2 months ago, we spoke about how underrepresented females are within software engineering, and how you're looking forward to an inclusive culture that was going to encourage different ways of thinking and different backgrounds, not the specific background that we've seen for the last 20 years. For you, I guess, how important is it to go into an inclusive culture that welcomes that as well? And for you, kind of the same token, what recommendations and advice would you give to maybe recent college graduates or any type of level of seniority that doesn't have a computer science background but wants to get into software engineering? How do you encourage more females to get into a core capacity like yourself?
Definitely. So for me, what I would encourage people to do, what I always think, and it goes back to learning. So think about your favorite engineer or your favorite whoever. Whatever they are doing, whether in leadership or not, they most likely were not born doing that. We are not even born talking, but we learn. So they learn, and that's something that we can learn. And I encourage people, if you have the tiniest bit of interest in it, explore it. If you have a little bit of curiosity, go for it, learn it. And to learn it, you don't need to start learning it like since middle school, or I didn't see a real computer since I was like in middle school, like real story. And I didn't even have my own laptop until like I was almost done with senior year in high school, let alone hearing about computer science. But when I was signing for classes my summer before school, I saw a class called Robot Game and Problem Solving. I was like, sounds interesting. Let's try it out. And I haven't looked back since then. So I would encourage people, if you're curious about something, if you have some problems you would like to solve, just give into that curiosity. It might not be something as formal as signing up for class for the next semester, but there is a lot of resources. You can just take something, try it out. I think I'm not a front-end developer, for example, but I was helping an organization with their DB and things, and I saw that they needed more help on the front end. I got curious. Doesn't mean I'm great at it, but I took a class and then start following. So follow your curiosity. If you have something you would like to try it. And also, whatever your interest is, whether it's politics, whether it's environmental justice, whether it's economics, whether it's medicine, there is a way that technology is contributing greatly to that. Okay. So follow that, so you can still use technology as a tool to contribute in the world and to make a difference the way that they would like to do it. So follow that, and you can still achieve that while giving a chance to engineering. And it does not have to be one specific thing. You might try embedded software and it didn't work, or you don't like it, but you can be a backend engineer, you can be a front-end engineer, you can be to data science. It can be a lot of things. So it's not a small, narrow path. It's a lot of things. And I would encourage everyone who's curious about it to give it a try. And I would encourage everyone else around them to encourage them. Don't ask them, are you sure you can do it? It's more like, yes, you can learn it. And as we've been talking all along, technology changes a lot, and I see it as opportunity. which means that you don't need to have a 20, 30-year background to be able to even get in. It's changing a lot. We are all learning all the time. So it's always a good time to get in.
I love hearing that. I mean, you're absolutely correct. And that's really what we spoke about throughout our experience from late last year into you being another highly visible member of our team at Drum. What's interesting about what you guys both spoke about is, again, just kind of the inclusive culture that's going to allow individuals to be successful. So I guess for you, Claryce, we'll start off to piggyback off that, as well as how can companies make IT departments more inclusive? Or when you're in an opportunity like right now at Drum, what have you seen that's made it an inclusive culture for yourself in order to be successful?
Okay, yes, definitely. For this question, what I would think about companies, I would think like a lot of companies have really good intention, and I've been very lucky with my relationship with Drum to find very inclusive space. Mm-hmm. And for the other companies that are still figuring it out there, my advice would be, every company wants to hire the best candidate for the position, right? Then maybe, and that's a good thing. But sometimes our idea of what the best is for the position might need some reviewing, some reevaluating. So maybe instead of hiring on what opportunity someone had in the past, you can just hire on the potential and what they have learned. For instance, I know a lot of people who graduate in less conventional path, but they learn what the company is doing. So if it's something like that, if you find your candidate like that, it's ideal, but it's not what ideal was on paper 20 years ago. Still give it a chance. Talk to them, get to know them, and then get to see what they can contribute.
That's great. Sorry. I think you went on mute. Sorry, Claryce.
Yes. And I would say also one very important thing, and I think the other side of this, it's not only a pipeline thing, but it's also once people are in there, like it's good for them to be seen, both for who they are, but also their contribution. So don't shy away into, appreciating people's contribution. Let them know that they are contributing something valuable. That's why they join the company, and that's why the company get them. So it's good to look internally into what will make someone stay and continue to be part of the team, and highlight that. Because if we want better results than the past 20 years or the past so many more years, as you mentioned, we are going to have to do things a little bit different, both internally and as to where we look for candidates as well.
That's great to hear and very refreshing. That's something that we have always spoken about is upskilling. It does not really necessarily matter what the past was. It's how can we address the issues at hand now and create an actual way to address them moving forward, right? Taking a step back to review where we're at and come up with a new innovative, disruptive way of moving forward rather than relying on the old, antiquated, legacy-driven ways of doing it. Now, Munish, for you as well, we spoke about how your skill set has evolved from when you were a recent college graduate to where you are now and rising up the ranks. For you, what have you seen about an inclusive culture to allow you an opportunity to continue to rise? And what can a company do to make sure that they also achieve that inclusivity when you're also a full-time resource in the future?
Right. I think Claryce kind of hit the nail on the head. And it really comes down to is, changing the mindset and changing kind of the conversation around hiring and around what makes a qualified candidate, and looking at people from different backgrounds, from non-traditional backgrounds. Just a quick aside, at one of my previous companies, one of the best programmers I've ever met came from a liberal arts program and had like a poetry degree, and that's not something you would expect, and but the work showed it for itself, and I'm sure Claryce knows people like that who came from very different backgrounds, and part of technology is the fact that it's very accessible, it's very easy to learn if you have the drive and the willingness, and kind of going back to our other point, if you have an inkling of interest in something and you can show it, that should be kind of the indicator that this person would be a great fit for the role, as well as other things. But primarily it should be somebody who has the ability to adapt, the ability to grow, and be able to kind of, companies need to be able to be on the lookout for that. And I think that's kind of where you'll start to see a lot of this, the paradigm of where talent comes from starting to shift. And I think it's happening, and I see it here today with Drum, and I'm happy about it. And I would like to continue to see it. So yeah, that's kind of what I have to say.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, a large thing that both of you guys alluded to is kind of the pipelining and how things are changing specifically. If we all as a community are able to provide the best candidate experience, either as a consultant through Drum or as a full-time employee in the future, that's only going to refer similar people and help grow a very diverse and inclusive culture, which I think we're all looking forward to 2021 for. But that's to wrap it up for our first spotlight with two of our best consultants. And I cannot thank you guys enough for the job you guys are doing, not only just professionally, but also personally. You guys have been rock stars, to say the least. So I look forward to continuing this in the great 2021. And thanks, guys, for tuning into our first spotlight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.